Start that.
Recording started now.
Wonderful. So the session has now started recording. So thank you everybody very much for popping onto our session today, exploring salary sacrifice and wellbeing schemes. My name is Claire Davis and I'm going to be chairing the session today. I work for the Business Growth Club and I work for the People, Skills and Talent team. The session is in for an hour and a half, but it is going to depend on how many questions that we get. So we are encouraging that you pop any questions that you've got into the chat box. We've got somebody manning the chat box. So after each speaker, we're going to do a Q&A session. But again, it's going to completely depend on how many questions we get. If we don't get lots of questions, then we'll finish the call after everybody's done their session. So it's going to be around an hour. So we're just going to kind of play that by ear. So I'm going to now introduce our fantastic speakers. So we've got some really great experts that are going to help us to navigate through salary sacrifice schemes today. So kicking us off this morning, we've got Gemma Fife. Gemma is the Senior HR Advisor at HR Depth. And then we have got Stephen Harding, who is the Tax Partner for Beaver and Struthers Accountancy. And then following Stephen, we have Mark Brazendale, and Mark is the CEO from Salford Credit Union. So I'm going to do a brief agenda of what the call is actually going to look like today. So I'm going to do a very brief introduction, and then Gemma, our HR representative, is going to talk about the business case and explore different types of salary sacrifice schemes that you might find out there in the market. We're then going to move on to the nitty-gritty. So Stephen, who's our accountancy partner, is going to discuss everything we want to know, really. How do we implement these schemes? How much is it? And most importantly, I know it's something that I want to know, is it complicated? Is this a complicated thing to set up? And then we're going to hear about some alternative staff wellbeing solutions that credit unions offer across Greater Manchester. And then we'll do the Q&A session. As I say, we are going to do a Q&A session after each speaker. So if you have got any questions, pop them in the chat box. We are going to do those Q&As. If you could not put your hand up, if you could pop it in the chat box, it just means that we can help manage any duplicate questions or anything like that. So I'm just going to start off by explaining the definition of an actual salary sacrifice scheme. A salary sacrifice arrangement is an agreement to reduce an employee's entitlement to cash pay, usually in return for a non-cash benefit. So some people call salary sacrifice schemes a salary exchange scheme, and they tend to look like a pension scheme, a cycle to work scheme, a car scheme, or childcare vouchers, but they're actually no longer available. Now, over the past couple of decades, the workplace wellbeing theme has really kind of evolved. So employees are now offering things like preloaded cards and vouchers, lots of different health benefits, and even payroll deduction, savings and loans through salary sacrifice as well. So what we're going to do today is touch on all those things that are on the screen and help you get a really good understanding of what they mean for your business, what are the benefits of your business, what are the benefits for your employees. So you come away from the call with a really good understanding of what you can do to your business moving forward in terms of these schemes, and help you put those in place. And again, if you have got any questions whatsoever, do pop them in the chat box, because we do want it to be an interactive session. So I'm now going to introduce the fantastic Gemma. So Gemma's going to introduce herself.
A little bit of an introduction for Friday morning. Fantastic. Just a little bit about me. Oh, you've lost the slideshow.
Sorry.
So I can talk around anyway while we get the slides back. So I've got 9 years management HR experience. I've worked in my current role with the HR department for the past 6.5 years. I'm associate member of the CIPD. The business that I work for, the HR Depth Trafford and Warrington, is a a franchise, so we have national offices all over the country, about 80 of them. We've got some in Australia as well, and I'm part of a team of HR professionals that we're based in Altrincham for our office specifically. So I just wanted to start by looking at why offer employee benefits. So aside from the tax benefits that Stephen will come to later on, some are actually a legal requirement. Now, a lot of people will say, I know that, but the amount of small businesses that I work with that perhaps don't always know this, things like holiday entitlement, for people that are 0 hours, they're everybody, excuse me, is entitled to 5.6 weeks holiday. Auto enrolment pensions must be available to those who are eligible, but there's also some different benefits, things like statutory bereavement leave, if an employee lost a child, things like that, flexible working, that are benefits that you perhaps don't know there's a legal requirement to be able to offer. It helps you attract candidates, compete with larger businesses, so perhaps rather than getting the second best person you could for the role, you've got benefits there that help you compete with some of those bigger businesses, and a lot of them surprisingly probably aren't as expensive as you think they are. You can help improve employee performance. People that feel that they're valued and they're offered these great benefits, or they have all these different options, likely to be more motivated, more loyal to the company in terms of wanting to perform well, and also better well-being if you've offered different benefits, leading into the fact that this can often also help reduce sickness-related absences. If you've got kind of medical benefits that we'll come on to shortly, that can help people in terms of getting them back to work sooner, or reducing the amount of absence, making adjustments, things like that. It can help you to retain employees overall. Quite commonly now, people are looking at a work-life balance. Sometimes it's about, offering hybrid working or flexible working. It's not always about just the salary that they get offered. What else do you do? Do gym memberships, things like that, to try and keep people within the business. And it's very expensive if you have to keep recruiting, training, developing, and embedding people back into the business. Finally, quite an important one, they can form part of your duty of care. So employers have a duty of care to their employees, their well-being, their health and safety, which extends both physically and mentally to kind of mental health as well. If they have a disability, you actually have a legal requirement to consider making reasonable adjustments to the workplace to help people. And if you offer well-being schemes, those benefits can help you in dealing with some of those areas, and kind of ticking a few boxes that you've got things in there to support people day to day. So this is not an exhaustive list, but these are kind of some benefits that you can offer to employees. So just having a quick kind of whiz around this screen, as it were. Starting, we've got well-being schemes, offering flu vaccinations, try and reduce them. I myself was off, unfortunately, with two weeks with flu this year, and it's the first time I've ever had flu, and it was horrific. But perhaps reducing the time people may be off sick because they've had these things. Occupational health, we are always recommending that they're used to kind of support management decisions. Access to employee assistance, health, things like medical insurance, which is probably the more commonly known benefit that can be offered. Health cash plans are of a similar ilk, but they I'll talk about that in more detail in the next slide. Protection, insurances, life assurance, income protection, a lot of these things now with the financial situation are becoming more and more important to employees, and actually what can we get as an added benefit there. And then general benefits, so some of this does include things like salary sacrifice schemes, cars, cycle to work, holiday exchange, but also normal things like trivial benefits. So perhaps at Christmas you might give, or other holidays you might give, a hamper to employees. Now, as long as it's under £50 and it's not cash or a voucher, this is something you can give occasionally. So there's little benefits all the way up to kind of, you know, some of the more comprehensive ones as well. There. So I thought I'd just give some stats and focus on a couple of things. So most benefits are available for a business to implement with as little as 3 employees. There are some that will be available from just 1, but most of these are available from 3+. I thought I'd go through the top 3 benefits that our broker found last year in 2022. So the first one was private medical insurance. It's one of the more costly benefits, but it's very high in demand. Interestingly, when I was talking to her, she was saying that in a recent survey they've done, 1 in 5 employees have actually paid for their own private medical insurance because it's of so much benefit to them if it's not offered by their employer. Death in service, fairly low cost to offer actually, but again, with the financial situation, we hope this is never actually something that needs to be used, but a lot of people are finding value in having these benefits in place. And finally, a health cash plan, which I mentioned on the last slide, again, available from 3+ employees typically. As an example, if you've got 10 or more employees, the starting cost of this is from as little as £1 a week. So per employee, so it's not a huge cost, but what it offers is claim money back on different things, so such as physio or dental work, or employers actually have to offer eye tests and contribution towards glasses for people that use their display screen equipment, which obviously nowadays is almost everybody's using laptops and computers, as we all are now at this moment. And we can actually use it for that, so you're not paying out separately. You've got this scheme in place, and they can go along, get some work done, and show the work, and you get money back depending on how much your scheme is at these different levels of how much you can pay towards it. The employee will get a bigger benefit the more, and it can include family members and things like that. A lot of the time with the health cash plans, they often come on a platform which has things like, so we've got one that has like a shopping portal, so I can buy vouchers for Sainsbury's and it's got discount on. And so whilst they may only be saving 40p on a £10 voucher, over time those little things do add up. But you can buy things like cinema tickets and all sorts of discount on online shopping and restaurants. Another area from the top 3 that I actually find that I'm asked for quite a lot, and we discuss quite a lot in my job day to day, is an employee assistance program. So often you can bundle this with things like a health cash plan, but an employee assistance program is something that you offer to employees where they can ring up 24/7 for help with their mental health, perhaps financial issues, debt, relationship advice. Often it includes face-to-face counselling sessions as part of the package. So typically the one that we offer has up to 8 face-to-face counselling sessions for somebody that perhaps is really struggling with their mental health. And often that's less, you know, it can be as little as £10 up to about £30 a year per employee. So depends whether you bundle it with other things. But employee assistance is, at the minute, in the last kind of 6 months to a year, the most asked for support once we've explained what that does by our clients. And it's the employees themselves get that benefit of having somebody else to talk to, and perhaps expedite getting counselling, where at the minute there can be up to a 6-month wait just to kind of get seen. So, you know, again, relating it back to how this helps reduce your absence, because perhaps that person, if they're spoken to sooner, will be back in the workplace sooner. Thank you. There you go. So I thought I'd give some examples as I can talk and talk and talk, but you know, it's always worth seeing some of the things. So, for example, with this is an actual quote. So I must say that it does often depend on various features. So private medical insurance is often on where your business postcode is and the ages of the people. But for a digital kind of agency, team of 8 people, 26 to 45 in age, with comprehensive cover, it's £160 per month for all 8 of them to have private medical insurance in place. And just to show the death in service again as this one of the less expensive benefits to offer. Team of 5 looks at the salaries there altogether. If you were to want to put 3 times salary in, that's £141.92 per year. So 5 times is 236. Of course, it increases with the amount of salary, but just to give that example of really adding a death in service to your benefit package might be a huge thing for somebody that sees it, but actually for all 5 people, you know, you're paying less than 150 quid to offer it. So it's a really good way to just put another thing on your advertisement going forward. So just to give you a little bit more information, so we work with a partner who's a whole of market broker who specialises in benefits for small businesses in particular, because they have very different needs to larger businesses. So they know that, you know, you're on a budget, and that's what we need to stick to. What can you get the best for your money, as it were. Some kind of just common things just to explain that there's not an extra cost to use a broker versus going straight to providers. The advantage though is that you're saving a lot of time because you get to see all the information, but you also get to get the advice. So like with anything, people are specialists in their fields. I couldn't advise myself on what is the best benefit for your business. You're best to go to somebody that does give you this, and that's why we work with somebody that does look across the whole market and doesn't kind of narrow you down into other things. They do free consultations. There's no obligation. We're not trying to push people into to getting benefits they don't need or want, but you know, if you've got some in place and you want to check if they're still competitive. You know, we've had people that have set up benefits and actually when it's come to use them realize that it isn't fit for the purpose that they needed it. So I would always advocate for going to get advice, whether that be from your accountant or through somebody like ourselves who can kind of help you steer through it. But yeah, and there's a QR code to our website, or the website link itself, if anybody wants any more details.
Fantastic, thank you very much, Gemma. I should mention that all these slides and the actual recording of the webinar is going to be on our website, and we'll send the slide deck out to everybody as well so that you can really have a good look. So I'm going to now go over to our lovely Vicky, who's my colleague in the People Skills and Talent team, and Vicky's manning our chat box today. So Vicky, have we got any questions at this point?
There's nothing in the chat box at the moment, Claire, no.
Fantastic. So Gemma, I'm going to just ask you a question. Should if I'm a small business and I was to add this death in service benefit to my package, am I going to have to get new contracts for everybody?
So you wouldn't necessarily have to give out a whole new contract, but you have a decision to make, I suppose. You can make benefits part of your contractual offering and package. So you're saying this is what we will give you. Some benefits you can make discretionary. So you could say that. So it's all about how you introduce it and how you perhaps go ahead with it. Over time, things become a custom and practice and become more likely to be contractual, even if you do it discretionary. But with a death in service, for example, in all cases going forward, benefits that you offer to employees need to be outlined in the contract, regardless of whether they're non-contractual or they're contractual. So there's a bit of all sorts of different circumstances really that you would kind of go into, but at the end, since 2020, basically the employees need to know what is available. So I would always advocate that you don't necessarily have to issue a full new contract, But you could do a contract variation, a letter that says, pleased to let you know that we've now introduced this death in service benefit, and just confirming whether you've put it in contractually or non-contractually. But being mindful that over time it can become an implied term if it's always on offer for people to use.
Amazing. And is there anything else that we should be considering as a business?
So yeah, definitely with kind of touched on it a little bit with the discretionary and the contractual element. Some things like offering sick pay, for example, above statutory, if you are doing this on a discretionary basis, but you always pay it. So every employee is usually getting a week's paid holiday, paid sick pay. You're not exercising your discretion. So actually people come to expect it. So be cautious of some of those things. But in addition, I've lost my train of thought now. I've literally just completely gone blank as to what I was going to say. Yes, sorry, when you do salary sacrifice schemes, Friday morning, everybody. So when you do salary sacrifice schemes, that is changing. So I'm not going to go into it too much detail because Stephen's coming up on that. But from a HR perspective, you are changing somebody's salary in order to get the benefit. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that there's a contract variation in place there, because they need to agree to reduce their salary in exchange for getting that benefit. And kind of following on from that, employers should be aware that, and employees should be aware with the salary sacrifice, that reduction in salary can go on to impact things such as what maternity pay they get. And some employees who are working close to or at minimum wage may not actually be eligible as well because of trying to comply with national minimum wage rules. So there's a few things there with different benefits. I'm sure there's a lot more.
No, it's really interesting, and this is what it's all about, isn't it? Helping to sort of navigate through to find the right solution for your business. So it's really, really helpful, that, Gemma. So thank you very much.
No, that's all right. Thank you.
Brilliant. So I don't think we've got any more questions for Gemma there. So we have got the lovely Stephen coming up next. So Stephen is going to introduce himself and do his section around salary sacrifice. And again, if you do have any questions, just pop them in the chat box. So over to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Gemma. So I'm Stephen Harding. I'm a tax partner with Beaver and Struthers. We're based in Manchester. Our head office is there. We have also offices in London, Birmingham, and a Lancashire hub close to Blackburn. Provide all the normal services you'd expect from your chartered accountants. We prepare accounts. We do undertake audits. We provide VAT, tax advice, corporate finance, and corporate recovery services. We also provide payroll processing. So as well as being a tax partner, I have overall responsibility for the payroll department, and this is a salary sacrifice is where I can say the two teams work together. So been advising SME businesses and people making R&D tax credits for nearly 20 years. And have been doing a lot more salary sacrifices, and also, with the current economic crisis, we've had a lot more questions about things like trivial benefits that I know Gemma's mentioned, and I can go over a few of those later on. So, so what is a salary sacrifice scheme? I think we're on to the next slide. So there's various ones, but the government and HM Revenue Customs approve these schemes that allow tax and national insurance savings to benefit both the employee and the employer. So it's normally part of the government policy to change the knowledge or the health of the country. So each of these schemes that I'll go in, I'll explain why it's been introduced, but they've really been at the forefront for the last, I guess, say 20 or so years. So in the 1999, we introduced a cycle to work scheme, but there was also something called the Home Computer Initiative, and this allowed companies, businesses to buy computers so that employees could use computers at home and do this through salary sacrifice, so it produced tax savings at whatever rate the employee was paying in tax, but also the national insurance savings for the business. This was quite useful, but it was soon closed within 2006. So all of the salary sacrifice schemes, as when they start to work and they've proved successful, then HMRC and the government say, great, it's achieved its objectives, we may close it. So that is one of my little caveats for things like the electric vehicles. With electric vehicles, I'm going to say, so then also going to mention nursery care vouchers. I've called it childcare vouchers. So this has been around for a while, and as Claire mentioned before, it's close to new entrants from 2018, and what you've now got is tax-free childcare, where the government will give you 20% if you put so much into a pot to buy vouchers. Now, the nursery care voucher scheme that was closed in 2018, it's still open, and there's just one little pitfall here. It was a full salary sacrifice scheme, and you've got to keep getting one voucher each year. So you may have started this and have got children that have gone to primary school, and where you're paying for before and after school clubs, and you could use those vouchers for that. So the pitfall here is you've got to have at least one voucher per year. So we had a number of people during COVID, the children never went into the scheme, but they should still have bought a voucher, or they never went into pre or post or after school clubs, but they can still, they should still have asked for a voucher in that 12-month period. If you don't use the scheme for 12 months, you're automatically out of it and then into the new schemes or the tax-free vouchers. So, Cycle to Work scheme. This was introduced at the same time as the Home Computer Initiative in 1999. The key thing here, the government wanted to promote healthier journeys, reduce environmental pollution. So, to introduce the Cycle to Work scheme, all of the details about what you need to do to the employee's contract are on the HMRC website. There's quite a lot of details, but also if you go to any of the major bike retailers, Halfords, Evans Cycles, they will provide the requisite details that you need to do. And what I mean there is it's changing the contract for a short period of time. So with the Cycle to Work scheme, the employer is able to purchase bikes and cycle equipment and loan these to the employee. And with certain, if all the conditions are met, then tax relief is available. And the key thing here is the bike is owned by the employer, not the employee during the hire period. And the bike should be used for at least 50% work or commuting to work during the hire period. So this is normally 12 to 18 months. And there's got to be no agreement in place for the employee to purchase the bike at the end of the hire period. And I know this sounds strange, but this is one of the little things that we need to, make sure as employees we do. If we said to the employee at the start of the contract, oh, you can buy this bike at the end of the hire period for £100, then it's not a Cycle to Work scheme. And I'll explain this a little bit more when I go through some more of the pitfalls with the Cycle to Work scheme, because even though it's great for a lot of employees, some of them enter into the scheme without a full awareness of what would happen if they were to, for example, leave employment and change employers during the year. One of the other key conditions is that it's got to be made available to all employees. I've been to a few clients, met with the directors, and they've said, yeah, we've done the Cycle to Work scheme. And I said, yeah, is this available to everyone? And whether that's just, an email going around occasionally, people being made aware when they start employment that actually there's a Cycle to Work scheme in place. And we have it on our notice boards around the office. So The key conditions for the cycle to work, I think I've just mentioned 18 months, or the initial hire period when we do the salary sacrifice is between a year and 18 months. And at the end of that 18 months, there's 3 options that the employee can choose. They can choose to end the agreement, in which case the company or business is left with a bike, then that they've got to decide what they're going to do. They can choose to extend the hire period for a nominal sum, which is what a lot of employees and employers do, and there's a reason why that. Or they can form a new agreement with the employer to buy or to hire a new bike. So the reason why you may extend it, and this is the second part that I mentioned before, for a further hire period, is the longer the bike's hired, the less the value is. And at the end of the hire period, if the employee wants to buy it, there are prescribed limits that HMRC say are acceptable for the employee to buy that bike at. So they may have used it for 12 months, or say, for example, 3 years. At the end of 3 years, HMRC are going to expect the employee to pay 8% of the original value. So for a £500 bike, you would hire the bike for up to 3 years and then pay a nominal sum of £40 for a £500 bike. And it's clear that you've got to do that, but you've got to factor in, it's a £500 bike, you've probably had £100 of tax savings and about £70 of national insurance savings. So yes, it's £40, but it's actually, saving you so much tax to go down this route. Okay, and the values, there's a prescribed tables that HMRC accept, and it varies if the bike cost originally £500 or over £500. Now, a lot of people think that there's normally £1,000 limit, and for most companies that would be the limit that you can hire, and that's due to regulations with the FCA and Consumer Credit Act. However, what a lot of employees do nowadays with bikes costing, significantly more, if they're, I can say, pedal assisted and electric bikes, is they will piggyback on the credit agreement that another business has got. So you see these if you go to the Green Commute Initiative website, or to Evans, I think, offer this as well, where they will provide a higher credit amount to the employee so that you can circumvent the FCA. Also the £1,000 limit doesn't apply if you're a not-for-profit business. So something to be wary of. What we are doing a lot of is salary sacrifice for electric cars, and when we go out to clients and we speak to the directors, and we'll say, well, explain how efficient these are to operate a salary sacrifice. It's quite, amazing, and you can see this in the figures when you look at each month the Society of Motor Manufacturers announce how many cars have been sold, and you can see that electric vehicles are going up. And then what they'll also do is provide a split of how many of these cars are sold to private individuals or how many sold to businesses. And it's the electric vehicles that are being sold to businesses that is such a high percentage of electric vehicles sales, because, like I say, of the benefits of the salary sacrifice. I think I said before about my caveat that HMRC know that cars are so important to employees and how they're taxed, that what they tend to do is announce years in advance, so 2 to 3 years, how they're going to tax electric vehicles, so that people who make a decision today aren't going to be impacted in the future on, the rates going, I can say, significantly up. So only a couple of years ago, if you hired a Tesla or a fully electric vehicle, you'll be paying 16%, or you'll be paying tax on the benefit of 16% of the car. So that's still quite a lot for a, say, £50,000 car. You're still going to be paying £1,600 of tax each year. So the changes a couple of years ago reduced that to 0, and it's slowly been increasing. So it's 1% and 2%. The key thing here is with the electric cars, when you enter into a salary sacrifice, as well as doing the normal changes to the employee's contracts, you will also have to complete P11Ds. So P11D is an annual return of benefits that's completed after the end of the tax return. You get 3 months to submit that to HMRC. And when you do that, you then also submit a, and the business, the employer pays some class 1 national insurance or national insurance. But this national insurance is so low compared with what you're saving by reducing the employee's salary. Now, the key thing about the electric vehicles, as I've just explained, the electric vehicle is bought by the employing company. So if you have any issues with the staff and the car, for example, the employee leaves, you will be left with this car for possibly 3 years, depending on the hire terms or the purchase terms. However, a lot of people lease these motor vehicles, these electric vehicles, and if you're leasing 2 or 3, some of them will allow you to return the vehicle if a employee leaves within a certain period of time. So normally it's not within 6 months. If the employee returns in 6 months, there may be charges if you return the car, but it also depends on how many employees you've got and how many employees take this up. So as an organization, we employ over 200 staff, but we wouldn't really want to, I can say, issue this to everyone because of the amount of administration that it involves. And it's easier if the administration can be handled or passed over to a leasing company, which is what we've seen. And we do have relationships with some of the leasing companies who are, very involved in making sure the salary sacrifice works. Okay. And I guess, so that's it on the electric vehicles. I was just going to go back to the pensions. So on the pensions, we've introduced this for all of our staff. And one of the reasons is with the pensions, the employer has responsibility for making certain pension contributions, as Gemma and Claire both explained. With the national insurance savings that are available if you provide a salary sacrifice for pensions, those savings that we received, we put in, and it allowed us to produce or to provide our employees with increased employer pension contributions. So in the past, I think the normal limit is 3%. Well, and is currently 3%, but we actually now, for our employees, contribute 4%, and we are thinking of increasing that soon. And that's one of these things that it's not a cash benefit for our employees at the moment, but hopefully in the future, when they come to retire, rather than contributing 3%, there's been an extra 1% going to their pension pot. It's quite significant by the time it's accumulated and grown. So okay, and I think we covered those reasons. That I think I've got an example next of the savings for this is for a pension salary sacrifice scheme. And the great thing here is after, so if you see here, this is if an employee takes a salary sacrifice, their salary goes down. And say, I can just see the questions pop up, but here is just a typical before and after. So before, the salary is £20,000. After, what the employee has done is given up £1,000, £100 of their salary each month and put those into the pension. So rather than the individual making pension contributions of £1,200 and the employer making £600, it's shown as the employer is making 2,800. So the total contributions are the same. I think if we go to the next slide, this shows that actually through the salary sacrifice, the individual is taking home £382. I think that those are just slight roundings because of the national insurance. So the employee is saving £380, and so that they're up £30 a month, and the same amount of money is going into their pension. The company's saving £165, and that's allowed us as an employer to put the additional cash into the employees' pension scheme. Okay. So the pitfalls and the downsides to operating a salary sacrifice scheme. I think I mentioned this before, that the administration of the schemes, although you can outsource quite a lot of it, the key thing about changing the contracts is something that we as accountants wouldn't necessarily review employee contracts. They're more the legal, and Gemma's may get involved more in that than we do. However, the key thing is that, you know, is it compliant? Have we done the right thing? Have we mentioned when we put the addendum? So when we introduced salary sacrifice at Beaver and Struthers, it was a case of we'd had meetings before, we'd had explanations, we'd had slides that we could upload a bit like today, and employees you know, were made fully aware of it. Still get I say a whole load of questions when they got the first pay packets, even though it'd been explained. I think the key thing was that everyone was happy that actually they could see that they were getting more take-home pay. So and those things about remaining compliant is set out quite clearly, whether it's on HMRC's website, about the key things that you need to do when you change an employee's contract to factor in the salary sacrifice. So the downside, I think I've mentioned before, is employees leaving, whether it's electric vehicles that the company will be left with. You know, some of the lease, if it's the EVs leased, then there are, I can say, methods, but anything like that is factored into the cost that the employee is actually sacrificing, because things like a lease, if there's the ability to send it back, that's going to be cheaper than a lease where there is no, I can say, recourse to send the vehicle back partway through the hire contract. The thing is, with employees leaving with the cycle to work scheme, this can be quite, it's something that employees aren't aware of. So if, for example, someone hires a £1,000 bike and they leave after 2 months, they may have paid off, I can say, 1/6 of what they owe. What happens then is, if they've left after 2 weeks, the remaining amount that they owe is deducted, but that isn't salary sacrifice, that is just a straight deduction from their salary. Then, depending on what has happened and the contract, the employer may say to the individual, because you've left and this contract ceased, you're required now to buy back the bike. And this only kicks in when an employee leaves. So as well as, I can say, if we had the example of a £600 bike, they left after 2 months, they would have paid off £100. They've still got to pay £500 that isn't salary sacrifice, and then they've got to buy the bike back. Now the bike will be valued at something like 75%. So they're not only paying 500, they'll be paying another 420 on top. It's ridiculous. But it's the way it's worded, and it is there, you know. So if anyone's you know, signing up for a cycle to work and has, you know, has got two thoughts, you know, about, oh, do I leave, or, you know, I'm going to stay with the business. That should really be explained to employees, and it may give employers an idea of which employees are there for long term if they're interested, and then they, oh well, I'm not too certain now. But we've got one client that's been caught out a couple of times with this, and we've looked at this if there's any way of getting around this. But the key thing here is HMRC have these prescribed values for the disposal value, and if the employee was to leave, you know, we've seen them where they've paid, you know, 150% of the value of the bike. Okay, moving on. The next, I'm going to say, downside is the national minimum wage, and Gemma's mentioned this. For a salary sacrifice, you can't offer it to an employee who's earning national minimum wage. And, you know, you may have taken on staff, you know, recently who, you know, who have been paid national minimum wage or national living wage, but if they want to sell it, and you know, the salary sacrifice for pension doesn't have to be the legal minimum requirements of 5%. We have all varying amounts. We have 10%. People wants to put 10% on, 20%, depending on their, you know, I'm going to say, desire to have a pension pot at a certain time when they require. However, you can't go and reduce that below the national minimum wage, and that is a downside for the employer, because it will be the employer that has to pick up and has to pay the employee the national minimum wage requirements, as well as, you know, the other downside for paying employees less than national minimum wage is the, you know, publicity, because any employers that are paying more than the national, or paying less than national minimum wage, they are published by HMRC on a regular basis. So the issues for the employees are, it does reduce your take-home pay, although the example I gave of the pension salary sacrifice, they actually benefit slightly. Can affect your entitlements to tax credits, but this can actually, you know, work in your favour. We've got a number of employees who are receiving child benefit and don't want to go above the 50,000 limit where child benefit can be clawed back, and they will increase their pension contributions to get them below that. Okay, and then the other thing is, and it's quite clear that bonuses and pay increases shouldn't be affected. So if you're taking a salary sacrifice for your pension, when you're looking at an annual increase, that should be calculated based on what the pre-salary sacrifice amount was. And it's just for employees to be made sure they're aware of that. Now, I'm conscious that I've spoke for a while and I've got a few questions. I don't think that there is anything else, is there?
Just
On the slides? Yep, just about us, but I've explained that already.
It's fantastic, Stephen. I think that really highlights why it's so important to do research before you're putting these schemes into place, because I had no idea about that cycle scheme, the ins and outs of that. It's really fascinating. I'm going to bob over to Vicky. Have we got some questions, Vicky?
We have, Claire. Yeah, we've got quite a few questions. I'm not sure we'll be able to get through them all. So we'll start with Isabel, who sent one first through around electric vehicles. She's asking, can this be accessed by directors of the company too, as well as employees?
Yes, it can. Yeah. Yep.
Wonderful. The next one from Jonathan, do all salary oh, my chat's just going crazy, so it's just dipped off the page. Do all salary sacrifice benefits reduced employer and employee NI contributions? Do the employee ones have to be shared with the employee?
They don't have to be shared with the employee. However, a lot of employees are clued up about this. Well, we find that working for a firm of accountants. So when, you know, we didn't try and pull the wool over anyone's eyes, and we made sure everyone was aware that actually the savings were being, you know, were going for pension contributions on their behalf, which has been the case because we've increased it significantly what we contribute. But the key thing is it a valid salary sacrifice? You know, there's only the three categories we've mentioned: electric vehicles, pensions, cycle to work, and the nursery care vouchers, which are, you know, fairly limited in their use now.
Thanks, Stephen. We've got a couple more. So I've got one here from Lisa. All staff work from home. Could you offer a salary sacrifice for solar panels at their homes to help with energy costs?
No, you can't offer a salary sacrifice. I think what you're looking at here is possibly a staff loan that they would pay off, but that staff loan isn't salary sacrifice. So you could give them a loan. The thing is, with the solar panels, if there's any feed-in tariff, they need to receive that feed-in tariff direct. You know, so a salary sacrifice is where the contract between is between the employer and the solar panel company. You couldn't, yeah, okay.
And that feeds in quite well with Bethany's question here about, she's heard the mention of salary sacrifice for staff loans, white goods purchasing. Is this something that can be done? So that kind of feeds into the last question slightly, Stephen.
Yeah, so the staff loans, there's a great exemption for staff loans, provided they're not directors or shareholders of the business. And a company can lend its employees, I think it's £5,000, or it could have gone up to £10,000. I will confirm, without there being any need for the employee to pay any interest on that loan, so a tax-free loan. They have got to pay it back, but you can do that through salary deductions out of your net pay, not a salary sacrifice. But that's another great benefit. I know Gemma touched on the trivial benefits. We're seeing a lot of those at the moment, you know, whether it's just a food hamper for everyone at the end of the month, you know, and when I say a food hamper, you know, just some essential food, whether it's tins of tomatoes, pasta, you know, those sort of goods that don't perish. Okay.
Thanks, Stephen. Claire, that's the questions completed.
Yep, perfect. Thank you very much. And I think that actually leads us very, very nicely on to our last speaker today from Salford Credit Union. It's Mark, because Mark is going to talk to us about the wellbeing package that credit unions offer across Greater Manchester, and that does include a lending product. So Mark, if I just pass over to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Can we just flip the slide, please, Claire? Hi, everybody. So this is the agenda I'm going to run through. But there is quite a lot of information in the slides, and I haven't got time to keep you all here today going through every line, but you will get the information after this call. Please do read the packet. You'll get everything you need to know from that. So first of all, I'm the CEO of Salford Credit Union. I've only been in post since the 1st of October, although I was the COO before that. My background, 20 years at NatWest, 6 years as a self-employed mortgage broker, and now I'm in my 11th year at the credit union. Obviously, I started work when I was 12. So Salford Credit Union has been around since 1988, and it's had a few names. It started out as Manley Park Credit Union, it then became known River Valley, and it was renamed Salford Credit Union in 2012 with a new board of directors and a new vision. We have a small team of 6 paid staff, and we currently have 12 employer payroll schemes. Now, these are not salary sacrifice schemes as such, because there's no tax advantages or anything like that. Your staff are not obliged to take part in it if you decide you want to offer it. And it does, however, require those that do want to take part having a deduction on their salaries and that money sent to us, but they always have access to it unless that money is being used to repay a loan. So what the credit unions offer? Well, we provide a safe and regulated place to save. We offer affordable ethical loans, including to people of modest means. We encourage thrift and money management, and we're a not-for-profit, so we profit for our members and not from our members. Turn the slide, please, Claire. So why should you consider a staff payroll scheme? Well, there's 6 good reasons there, which you can have a read of. I'm just going to look at a couple of them. So we've all come through the pandemic, and what's become apparent from that is that millions of households went into the economic crisis unprepared. It was estimated that in 2018, 10.7 million adults, which is 21%, rarely or never saved, and 11 million had less than £100 in savings. So by offering this type of scheme, your staff will start to put money away if they choose to, and sort of build some financial resilience. And then number 6, as an employer, in 2018-19, the research showed us that 12.7 million working days were lost due to stress, depression, or anxiety, which is actually 54% of the total 23.5 million working days lost. Although financial concerns are not the only cause of such problems, research suggests that there is a clear connection with financial stress contributing to higher absenteeism, lower productivity, and reduced performance. In other words, money worries affect individuals, but also have a detrimental impact on employers and the wider economy. We can move the slide over. So this is basically the credit union model. It just tell you how we work. The key things on here, we're a small credit union. We have 4,400 member owners. If you open an account with us, you become an owner of our business. You have voting rights at the AGM. We currently hold 3 million in members' savings, and we lent 1.2 million last year in loans. By borrowing from us, members saved between 1.1 and 2.1 million in lower interest against other lenders last year. We've welcomed 1,000+ new members in the last 2 years, and we also granted 2,407 loans last year. So we are quite busy from a small team of 6 staff. We'll move the slide over again. So how do credit unions operate? Well, the members owners own the business, but then we have an elected board of directors from the membership, and they establish strategy and policy. We also have a member owner nominated supervisory committee, and they do the internal audit under the ears and eyes of the membership and basically confirm that we are doing things the way that we should do to benefit the members. Then there's me, the CEO, and then we have 5 other staff, and we have 3 volunteers that come in. We are regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority and the Prudential Regulation Authority, and we are part of the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. And what that means is that any savings your staff have with us, they are fully protected up to 85,000. So if we were to go out of business, your staff wouldn't lose any money. So we're also a cooperative, which means that we're part of the cooperative strategy across the city, and there are 8 other credit unions that we work closely with. You can turn the slide over, please. Credit unions are part of a worldwide movement. They operate in over 100 countries and have over 200 million members worldwide, but we're quite small in the UK. We've only got 2 million currently with credit unions. The credit union's new mission from 2022, supported by Salford City Council, was to be a respected local provider of affordable loans and accessible savings, available and relevant to all within our membership community, and be responsive to members' changing needs. So what do we offer then? So we offer savings accounts initially, and you can apply to join us via our website. You have to live or work in Salford or parts of North Manchester to be able to join Salford Credit Union. But as I've said, there are 8 other credit unions, if you're outside of that area, that will be able to accommodate you. Membership does require identity and verification checks because we have to comply with money laundering regulations, and we do that check electronically. If you've not been at your house for less than 12 months or you're not on the voters roll, then quite possibly we would need you to provide actual documentation such as photo ID and proof of address. As I've said, savings are protected. Unlike the Christmas clubs, many people you'll know will have park hampers, and park hampers did go bump a few years ago, and everybody that saved with that all year round lost the money and were left short. If you had your money in a Christmas savings account with us, you can start by saving from as little as £10 a month. You can save all year round. We only allow you to withdraw from it from November the 1st, but it's fully protected. It's your money. You get the whole amount back. Another disadvantage of things like park hampers is you only buy the hamper and you get things that you don't want. If we're returning all your cash to you, then you can go and buy what you want. Also, with the loans that we do, we offer preferential rates for payroll partners, which we'll talk more about later in the slides. We have 12 current selected employers, including the council, Salix Homes, City West, I think it's now known as For Housing, Salford City Leisure, Salford Royal Hospital. If you request a transfer of funds, we put it into your bank account on the same day, and we have 3 transfer times. If you request a transfer at 9 o'clock in the morning, it'll be in your account by 10:30. If it's after 10:30, by 1:30, and if it's after 1:30, it'll be in by 4:30. So our approach to lending, we encourage all borrowers to save regularly, and that's what makes us different. Many of our members have never been able to save. So what we do is, if a member says to us they want to take out a loan and the loan repayment is £50 a month, we would structure that in such a way that £45 would repay the loan and £5 would go into a savings account, which they wouldn't have access to while the loan remained. We also only lend what is affordable. We're an ethical and responsible lender, and we add social value. We keep the loan repayments in Salford, which helps the local economy. We have transparent interest rates. Members only pay interest on the reducing balance. So with each loan repayment that they make, the interest charge reduces month on month. We don't charge setup fees. We don't charge arrangement or admin fees, and there's no early repayment charges for paying the loan off in full. We can lend between £100 to 10,000 subject to status, and we do carry out credit checks and affordability assessments, which we have to do as a regulated provider of loans. Your staff member can choose how often they want to pay. You can do that weekly, fortnightly, 4 weekly or monthly, whatever fits your staff member's needs. Our loans are reported to the credit reference agencies, which helps build the credit score with every successful repayment. We have 3 main loan products. We have a personal loan, which is available to new and existing members, and rates start 42.6 down to, that would be like the lower end, 100 to 1,500, and then the higher end, 10,000, 7,000 and above would be at the 7.5%. But if you become a payroll partner, those rates are significantly reduced, because the highest rate we would charge you would be 19.9%. And we have a family loan product, which is probably our most popular product at the moment. If people have the child benefit paid direct to us, we don't do any credit checks, and we guarantee a loan between 300 and 500, providing that the loan is affordable. One thing we do find is that there are a lot of other high cost lenders out there that are taking advantage of people, and typical doorstep lender rates on a £500 loan, 299%. So to repay that loan over 52 weeks, you will repay £18 a week, and the interest charge will be £436 with a total repayment of £936. If you came to a credit union for it, we're capped by government at 3% per month, which is 42.6% APR that we can charge. Over the same 52 weeks, that same £500 loan would cost you £11.48 a week, with a total interest charge of £96.59, meaning you would repay £596.59. And loan sharks, well, we see things all the time where people have fallen into those, and we've recently got a customer here who borrowed 600, has so far paid back 4,200 and still owes the 600 that she borrowed. So we're trying to help her to get rid of that. So please, if you know anyone using your loan sharks, get them to speak to us. So what is a credit union payroll membership then? So it's a staff benefit with a difference. So you can reap the rewards without the cost, because it's totally free. It's an easy way for your staff to save and access loans linked to the employees' pay. As long as you operate with Salford, you can join us. But if you operate just outside of Salford in the Greater Manchester area, there is a credit union that will be able to help you. Benefits to employers: it's free, it's safe, it's easy to manage. It helps create a lasting impact on well-being, wealth, and the loyalty of your employees. We take responsibility for the lending risk, and all the savings are covered by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. And we help you do all the work. We complete the service level agreement with you. We set up the payroll deduction process. We notify you when a new staff member registers, and we tell you that the payroll deduction amount to take from the next payday. We do that by sending Excel spreadsheets back and forth. The agreed deductions are input into your payroll system, appear on the employee's payslip in that right-hand column below the tax and national insurance. And then the total deductions, you send it across to us as a faster payment with a list of who it goes to, and then we allocate it to those members' accounts. So it's a convenient way to save or borrow for your staff. And existing payroll staff tell us they don't miss the money if it's taken from payrolls. They kind of get used to it coming to us. Any one of your staff can join the scheme and specify how much they want to save. It's confidential. You, the employer, are not aware if the deductions for savings are for loan repayments. And the deduction can be for as little as £10 a month. As we said, we're safe and fully regulated. And payroll members get better loan rates than most of our other credit union members. And because they repay via payroll, we have a reduced criteria for assessment for loans paid by payroll. They still have to be affordable, but previous poor credit history is considered. So if you do have staff members with poor credit that are having to use high cost lenders, then a credit union is the place to direct them. So we work together to make a difference. The more people that use a credit union, the more people we can help spread the word. Credit unions generally are known as the poor man's bank, but that's not the case. We have people from all walks of life with us. We've said already that we operate in 100 countries. People that come to the credit union help Salford Credit Union contribute to the city's anti-poverty strategy. And we also help to make people better off and improve your employees' lives. And then just one other thing we've done, the 8 credit unions are working together, and we're working, I think that's the old pack, I'm afraid, Claire. I did send an updated one with the sampan. There we go, thank you. So the 8 credit unions have come together to offer a Sampound loan brand. So there is a Sampound website, and you're able to just log in there, type in your postcode, and it will tell you which credit union can offer you services. And if you don't want to go by the Sampound loan brand, you can also use the website findyourcreditunion.co.uk. Simply put in your postcode and it'll tell you which credit union can offer you services. So all 8 credit unions in the Manchester area offer payroll schemes, and we'll be able to help you if you want to take this forward. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mark. And I'll just say I actually do use my local credit union when you talked about the poor man's bank, and I use it for the Christmas saver, and I find it really useful at Christmas because it's locked, so I can dip into it come November, so it's really helpful. So just thought I'd throw that in. Have we got any questions, Vicky?
Yes, we have. We've got one from Carol. So what happens if an employee leaves the company?
Well, so if your employee leaves the company, you just remove them from your payroll deduction. Obviously, you would need to advise us, and then we'll make contact with that individual and probably switch them to standing order if they had a loan in terms of repaying that loan, or set up a standing order if they were just a regular saver so that they could continue with that if they want to. And we'd also have a conversation about any new employer wanting to offer the same sort of scheme to their staff members.
No, so the company's not liable for the loan at all?
No. We stand that financial risk.
Brilliant.
Fab. Thanks for that, Mark. We haven't got any direct questions for Mark now. We've got one question for Stephen, if possible.
Yeah.
Jonathan, did you want to position it yourself? Jonathan's still not fully clear on the benefits of offering things as part of a salary sacrifice scheme. Jonathan, do you want to come in? Could we unmute?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's with reference to the benefits that actually reduce the NI contribution. So I think you said there were 4. So if I give you an example of, if I do health cash plan, which we currently have in place, it's not been done through a salary sacrifice scheme. I'm just struggling to understand what's the point of me doing it through a salary sacrifice scheme if that doesn't attract any NI reduction.
I don't think you can do it through a salary sacrifice if it's a payment of a loan or anything like that. It just comes out of the employee's net pay rather than the gross pay.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not
a
sure
health
on
cash,
this.
sorry, I can jump in because a health cash plan is it's something that the employer pays for, but there isn't a tax saving on it. It's just a benefit. So you still are likely to probably have to report it, but it's not a tax saving benefit. It's just a benefit that you offer, like a benefit in kind. So it's a non-cash, and people kind of upload their receipts and things like that to get their money back.
Yeah, that's fine. I think you've
Yeah.
just clarified the point. So there's only a few benefits like the EV, the pension. I forget what a couple of the others were, but there's only those 3 or 4 that actually reduce NI contributions.
Yes.
The tax benefit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you very much for that, Jonathan. Yeah, that's correct. So it's the cycle to work, the electric car, the pension, and the childcare vouchers that most people can't use anymore. So thank you for that. So
We do have a couple more questions just to go back over from Gemma and Stephen's section. If we've finished slightly early, could we go back over them if that's okay?
yeah, absolutely, please do.
Wonderful. So I've got one here. How can salary sacrifice affect redundancy calculations when you commit to a reduction in base salary to obtain the tax benefit? And can you use this process to take you out of a particular tax band?
So the salary sacrifice is used to take people out of a particular tax band. So I think I mentioned the example of an employee who's earning just close to £50,000. At that level, they're going into the high rate tax band or close to it. And also, if they've got children and are claiming child benefit, there could be a clawback of their child benefit depending on how much they're earning. So the salary sacrifice for an electric vehicle, for a pension, and also cycle to work will reduce their tax rates below the 50,000 limit. So then what was the first part of the question again? Sorry.
Okay, so can salary sacrifice affect redundancy calculations when you commit to a reduction in base salary?
Gemma, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah,
I can see you,
I know.
nodding. Yeah.
We cross over, so it's difficult. But
Yeah.
yes, it can impact redundancy payments. It can impact things like maternity calculations because it is a reduction in salary and it's an actual change to salary. So yes, in short, it can. Obviously, redundancy is capped as well. So depending on how big your salary is, it might not matter because the cap is the 571. Per week, but if your salary was below that, then yes, it can impact things like that.
Thank you. That's all the questions wrapped up now, Claire.
Brilliant, thank you, Vicky. So thank you everybody for coming on the call today. As I've said, we have recorded this call and I will send the link out once it's live. We will be sending the slides out to everybody on the call as well. So everybody who's registered will get a copy of these. And I know some slides we didn't go through fully, we did just touch on. So hopefully you can read through those slides and you've got the information and resources. We will also put the link to our website. So we've got a fantastic Here for Business website, which has got loads of resources. It's got all our upcoming events and webinars. So we've got a suite of webinars. It's not just this webinar about all sorts of different topics and themes to help businesses navigate through the current economic climate. So please do check that out because hopefully you'll find that useful. So absolutely love some feedback. So please send over any feedback that you've got about the call because we do want to make these calls compelling, interesting and useful. So please do that. Thank you very, very much for our fantastic speakers. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning. And thank you everybody for coming on. So have a lovely rest of Friday and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.